So all you need is a laptop and an internet connection. This is exactly how I'd get started if I was learning to code all over again. And if you're not in college or in a boot camp, amazing. This video is quite literally for you. So I'm gonna show you the languages and frameworks I would learn, the resources I would use to learn, the gear and the laptop I'd buy, the projects I'd build, the portfolio I'd build, how to deploy it, get it online, get it in front of recruiters, and the exact steps I'd take to get job ready as soon as possible, no matter what city you live in. This is actually the exact strategy that I used to land a triple-figure coding job within 2 months of self-teaching myself how to code. It's not overly complicated. I have absolutely nothing to sell you right now. All I have is a process that worked for me, and I just want to reveal it to you right now in one easy place. So I'm going to break this video into 3 main parts: the mindset, the madness, and the money. You ready to get started? Let's get going. Okay, starting with the mindset, and this is the first point that is the most important of all. To be a good programmer, you need to be a great problem solver. Have you ever wondered why programmers seem to be these like super smart, nerdy people that seem to have absolutely everything all together? The entire industry is filled with amazing problem solvers. Some would say that they're actually professional Googlers, and they're not wrong. It's actually an incredibly large part of being a programmer. So essentially, you need to be prepared to find answers to questions that might not seem obvious at first to solve. Critical thinking is the #1 skill here. Sometimes it's just as easy as getting on Google or YouTube and looking up a debugging error. Programming is just about being a really, really good problem solver. And so the first critical step for you is adopting a programmer mindset. Essentially, just in a nutshell, there is a way, I just need to find it. Think back to like any time in your life where you've had a blinking light on the back of a modem. Something's just gone wrong. There's 2 types of people in this world. The first kind of people will just see that error and they'll go, okay, I need someone else to fix it. Or there are the programmer types, which go, okay, here's an error message. There is a solution. I just need to find it. Once again, we're coming back to this programmer mindset. It's almost like a superpower that's gonna help you incredibly in your coding journey going forward. I can remember multiple times over the past few years where I've been a programmer and I've adopted this programmer mindset in my daily day-to-day life. My wife and I have fixed a fridge fan, we fixed a washing machine, we fixed an indicator on a van. Once you realize that there is a solution, I just need to find it and adopt that mindset, you can actually just solve almost anything in life. Almost to the point of delusion. But it's an amazing trait to have as a programmer because it's going to allow you to move faster, more agile. The coolest part is this programmer mindset is going to be applicable to almost every part of your life. Take it on board, enjoy it, it's going to be amazing. But this brings us to the next step of the mindset, which is, it's going to get hard sometimes. I tried learning to code for between 5 to 8 years where I would get really inspired one evening on the weekend and I'd start learning to code and I'd do some basic HTML. And by the end of the weekend, I wasn't a fully fledged full stack engineer and I would feel really uninspired to keep going. You're gonna have a lot of these moments. This is where it's really important to identify what is your North Star? Why are you doing this? Move to a different country, potentially get visa sponsorship, change your entire career completely. There's so many different reasons why you might want to start learning to code. And so it's really important for you in this step right now, before you even started learning the practical of code, to identify your North Star. Why are you doing this? Who are you doing it for? What's going to drive you when times get tough? Because they will. Sometimes you're gonna come up against bugs that are gonna take you a minute to solve. Sometimes they're gonna take a few hours. Sometimes you're not even gonna solve them at all. You're actually gonna come up with a completely new solution. When we pair these 2 points of mindset together, the programmer mindset of there is a solution, I just need to find it, plus your North Star metric, it's gonna really help drive you forward, especially in this learning process. It's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be the easiest thing ever. And that's why not everyone in the world is a programmer. The key takeaway overall is just identify why you're doing this. What is your North Star? That's gonna keep you moving forward. Okay, now let's move on to the madness. And the madness starts with the field that you wanna go into. This is gonna dictate completely what direction you go on your learning path, but also into the type of jobs that you might wanna go into. The coolest part is it's completely up to you. There are so many different fields in software engineering. There's AI, there's web dev, there's mobile development for iOS, Android. There's so many different things you can go into. Let's start with a few of the highest paying jobs in the software engineering niche. We've got machine learning, we've got a data scientist, and we've also got a cybersecurity specialist. Next, we move on to the most popular or easiest software engineering jobs to get started with right now, which is a web developer or a mobile app developer, maybe even a software tester. Then we move on to fields with potentially significant growth in 2024, which are AI, cloud computing, data AI, and then we've also got some emerging technologies as well, such as like blockchain and VR. I can't stress enough the importance of choosing a field that's actually something you're interested in. This is really a long-term play, and it's going to dictate completely the path that you set for yourself over the next 6 to 12 to 24 months. Here's a couple of breakdowns just based on a few different fields that I could recommend checking out. For AI, I'd recommend you probably want to learn Python, TensorFlow, and PyTorch as a start. For mobile app development, you might want to learn Swift for iOS, React Native for cross-platform development, which is really awesome by the way, and Kotlin for Android. For web development, for the front end, you might want to learn some HTML, CSS, JavaScript, later move on to TypeScript, and then React. And then for your back end, you'll probably want to learn JavaScript to start with, move on to TypeScript in the future, Nest.js for building beautiful CRUD APIs, and then SQL for understanding database structures. That's a good start for a couple of fields that you might be interested in going into, but I wouldn't get caught up on the languages right now. Right now, you just need to understand the kind of job that you want to go into and understand what field that is specifically. For me personally, I actually went down the web developer route. And here's why. Web development opens doors for cross-platform development. So front end, back end, in the browser, the mobile browser. You can also work on React Native applications such as iOS and Android. In my opinion, I'd say it's probably the easiest field to get started in as far as building a SaaS product or anything that can make some really quick money online. It's also a really popular field for job opportunities. There's always a need for web developers. It's paid really well across the board, and there's actually an amazing number of entry-level jobs when it comes to web development as well, because you could start either purely on the front end or purely on the back end. And I mean, even right now, if you go onto LinkedIn and you look at jobs available at Google or Amazon or anything like that, they often specify a lot of these languages that web development requires, such as JavaScript, TypeScript, HTML, CSS. It's completely up to you going forward what you decide, but for this example, I'm going to show you the step-by-step process on how I would become a web developer starting from nothing. Okay, now we've decided on our field. We're in web development, we're doing JavaScript. Cool. I'd start by learning how to manipulate values, iterate over values, start working with objects, arrays, numbers, methods, all sorts of different things that you can start learning about right now. For a complete beginner, I understand this might sound a little bit overwhelming. It's okay, I've got some resources to help you out. The main thing is you don't want to get stuck in a content binge cycle, which is where I see a lot of junior developers getting stuck. They think that because they're watching these YouTube videos for hours and hours and hours and hours and just completely consuming the content instead of actually coding, they feel like they're being productive. So I would highly recommend that we learn by doing. So I'm going to show you some resources that you can actually learn by doing. So there's a few options here that we can work with. And what's really cool is they're all completely free to get started. There are some super affordable resources if you do want to level up and get like everything given to you on a platter. It's going to be completely self-driven learning. So it's up to you to understand that North Star while you're doing this. So here's 3 resources that I would recommend if I was getting started as a web developer right now. Number 1 is Scrimba. Number 2 is Freecodecamp. Number 3 is YouTube, funnily enough. That's all you need, and you can get started right now completely for free. Let me show you how to actually get started and the exact plan and structure that I would use to learn. So what I've done is down in the description below, I've actually put a link to the Scrimba courses page. You're gonna see a ton of different courses. There's gonna be curriculums and interactive lessons that you can get started with today. And I'd start by jumping into the introductory JavaScript course. Alternatively, if you wanna fast track this learning resource and go from like 0 to 100 by learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, working with some APIs to send data to and from a server, and then like potentially even some like interview preparation, there's a really cool course here as well. It is paid, but it's only like 20 or 25 bucks a month. So definitely worth checking out. It's this front end entire curriculum course. When I was using Scrimba when I was first learning, I don't even think this was available. So I had to just do it all manually. So yeah, if you want everything kind of like done for you and in a beautiful structure, that's ready to go. Otherwise, we'll just stick with the basic JavaScript course for now. Being a good coder is not about memorization. In fact, it's never been easier to actually start forgetting things, especially with the introduction of GitHub Copilot. I'd focus on clarity of information and actually understanding what the different methods do, how you can use them, and where they're applicable in your code base. It's just repetition, 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 just doing it over and over again, practicing. It's just gonna become more natural the more that you do it. But this moves us on to step 2 of the madness, which is the schedule. And without a schedule, you're gonna get really, really lost and potentially just fall off the wagon completely from learning. So what I recommend is you decide right now if you wanna opt into a 30-day challenge. And that 30-day challenge is you, for 1 hour per day, are going to jump on Scrimba and you're going to learn some code. And if you want to commit to that challenge, what I'm going to recommend you do is comment down below that I'm committing to the 30-day challenge. Let's keep each other accountable. I want to comment on your stuff. Let's all comment on each other's and make sure that we're actually doing that 1 hour per day. Also, I've heard that I think it's like 21 days to form a habit. So if you do this for 21 days, it's going to start feeling super natural learning JavaScript. The next part is the inevitable problems that you're going to come up against. And believe me, the computer is right, you are probably doing something wrong. And so now it's up to you to use that programmer mindset that we talked about earlier, where there is a solution, I just need to find it. And that can just start with something as simple as Googling or YouTubing a error message. What I do is I'd take that error message, put it straight into Google or YouTube, and just start browsing articles. Just see if there's anything that's relevant to my specific setup, my specific code that I'm trying to write right now, and the error that I'm facing. And if you can find a solution, you are light years ahead of so many developers. It's going to skyrocket your coding career. It's gonna make you super valuable in a team environment. You're gonna be able to help other engineers with their bugs. So the key part here, you wanna get really good at self-diagnosing issues and being able to solve those bugs by yourself. That's a really, really good skill to have in the programming industry, especially if you wanna work at any decent company out there. Okay, so that's Scrimba. That's the first resource. We've also got Freecodecamp, which is almost a partner of Scrimba. I know there's like a bit of crossover there. It's a more manual version of Scrimba where you can go through mainly text-based learning, where Scrimba is more an interactive environment. But personally, if I was doing this myself and starting from scratch, learning how to code web development, I would move all the way through Scrimba's front-end development plan. I would go all the way from HTML, CSS, JavaScript, go into React, and then potentially learn some TypeScript as well, because TypeScript is going to be really important going forward. What I would do then is then move on to YouTube. And here's why. When we move on to YouTube, we're actually doing something a little bit different to what we've been previously doing inside Scrimba. Scrimba's been a very interactive environment where we've gone through with a tutor and they've asked us to do certain things, so we've written them right there. They've asked us to remove some things, so we've deleted them right there. YouTube, on the other hand, is where we're gonna take things into our own hands a little bit. And it's where we're gonna actually start developing a portfolio. It's essentially just a collection of projects and, most importantly, code that recruiters can look at when you're looking for a job. Now, what a lot of engineers miss out on is actually building a nice portfolio that helps them stand out from the rest of engineers all over the world. How do you stand out as an engineer? It's by building an array of beautiful projects that are laid out on a website, browse the source code, they can see the live deployment, they can actually see the effort and the commits, the individual code pieces that you've put into building that project. That's what we're gonna be building now with YouTube. So let me show you how I would do that. Now keep in mind, these are projects that you're gonna show off to the world, so be proud of them and also put a lot of effort into them. Now the first step here is you're gonna need to take some initiative, be a programmer for a second, and figure out how to set up your local workspace. Inside Scrimba, we had everything hosted in the cloud for us already. We could just jump straight in. There was zero setup required. We had our editor right there in the cloud. Now we're gonna be doing this locally on our machine. And I'll give you a couple of tips to get started. The first thing I'd recommend doing is downloading VS Code. I'll put a link to that down below as well. It's just gonna be an IDE that we can use to write code on our machine. If you wanna learn how to download VS Code and get things set up on your machine, I'm sure you will be able to find a tutorial out there, maybe on YouTube. Take some initiative, figure it out. Now, as far as gear goes as well, I get a lot of questions. What laptop should I use? What computer should I use? Should I do Mac, Windows, Linux? It doesn't matter. It genuinely doesn't matter. If your computer has a mouse and a keyboard and works, and especially if it's still sold in stores today, or even in the last year or two, you've got something that can work. You don't need a super powerful laptop to get started, especially when just working with basic low-level JavaScript. I personally run multiple back-end servers at once, iOS simulators, front-end developments, all at the same time. So I need a little bit more juice. And if you're interested, there will be a link below to this specific laptop. It is a MacBook Pro with the M2 Pro chip. It's only 16 gigabytes of memory. Honestly, as I said, just get something basic. It really doesn't matter. All you need to focus on is getting VS Code installed and you're ready to go. Okay, now that we've got the gear sorted, let's move on to the last part of the madness, which is actually building our portfolio and using YouTube to do that. For YouTube, what we want to do is focus on follow along tutorials. Now, I'm not talking about following along another developer and completely copying code for code, line for line their project. In no means what we want to do. What we want to do though, understand how they're building things. things. Watch them build components. Understand how they're designing things and laying things out. And what we want to do is take inspiration from those projects and build a unique twist on them for our own portfolio. You can't just be watching tutorials. That is not going to work. You need to be implementing. That is the best way to learn JavaScript and overall web development. So the next step, obviously, is to find some really good follow-along tutorials that we can base some projects off. But what kind of projects do we want? If there's a specific type of company that you're interested in going into already, for example, let's say it was Netflix or YouTube, you might want to think about building some projects that reflect a product that they have in their library. For example, you might want to build a video streaming project. So what I'd recommend doing is showcasing 5 to 7 super high quality projects, in my opinion, on your portfolio. Each have a high quality README. They should have a link from your portfolio directly to the GitHub repository. They should be hosted for a recruiter to actually be able to play around with and view. And I'll show you how to do that really easily using Vercel. And your projects should demonstrate a wide variety of use cases in the web development space. For example, I would not recommend building Netflix, Disney Plus, and Hulu as 3 separate projects. They are in the exact same space. Sure, if you are really passionate about going into video streaming, go ahead, do that. But what I'd recommend doing is showing some variety and showing that you are adaptable to different spaces in the web development game. So an example of that might be building Netflix, Twitter, the Walmart homepage, Airbnb, maybe a few more, you get the drift. So now I'm gonna hand it back to you. And once again, it's you taking initiative, taking that programmer mindset and going, okay, I need to find 5 to 7 high quality walkthrough tutorials that I can follow. And a couple of recommendations for this as well. Ideally, you want them to be fairly recent. So within the last 6 to 12 months, ideally. This is mainly just to ensure that your dependencies are up to date and you don't get too bottlenecked too fast. Now, once you've got these 5 to 7 projects lined up and you've got them stored somewhere, maybe in a Notion document or just maybe your notes folder, now's a good time to do some quick maths and understand if you dedicate an hour per day, how many months is it gonna take you to finish each of these projects? And frankly, if you're not happy with the number that came out from that exercise, I would recommend upping the number of hours that you're working on it per day. If you want to take this seriously and actually land a job in the crazy competitive world of software engineering, you do need to take it seriously. And just like anything in life, if you really want something, show that you want it. You got to remember as well, this isn't going to be easy. And I've said it before, you need to have that North Star metric that's guiding you along for the reason why you're doing all of this. It's going to be hard. So I know you can do it. Just keep moving forward. The next step naturally, if you haven't already got it set up, is you want to start pushing your code up to GitHub. And if you haven't heard of GitHub or you don't have an account, go to github.com right now and sign up for a free account. This is going to allow you to store your code in the cloud so that it's safe. And it's also going to allow you to share it with potential recruiters and businesses out there so that other people, even friends and family, can see your code and your deployments. Really, really cool. The next step after you've got GitHub set up is I would recommend learning Git. Git is essentially just a version control management system. It's a great tool that you're going to use all day, every day in your coding journey, especially professionally. You can actually learn Git within that front-end developer course on Scrimba. I just realized it's right there. But essentially, all you're doing is every time you write some code, you're going to save your changes. And the way to do that is by using Git. I would recommend pushing to GitHub daily if you can, just to keep things safe, and also it makes your GitHub metrics look really, really cool. Now, if you don't want to use Scrimba to learn Git, then once again, I'm going to hand it back to you. How do you learn Git? Well, let's start with Google or YouTube. You guys have got this. You've already come this far. You can figure out how to push to GitHub from your CLI. Okay, so now we're getting into the exciting part of the video, which is the money. Now, obviously the money doesn't start coming in until you've landed a job, but by this point, you've built an incredible bag of projects. You've got them pushed up to GitHub. Now we're ready to start thinking about a portfolio and how we lay it out for potential recruiters and companies to see, as well as your friends and family. So let's get started on that right now. All you need your portfolio to do is showcase your list of projects that you have on your GitHub. Now, for some people, yes, they just share their GitHub link with a potential recruiter and hope for the best that they get a job. I recommend going a step further and actually showcasing them in a beautiful way on a self-hosted website. Either way, you should have learned React by now. And what I'm going to recommend you do is initialize a brand new React project so you can get started building your portfolio. Now's a time where you can get a little bit creative and think about how you actually want to lay these projects out. There's a million different ways that you can create a portfolio, and over your career, it's going to change and evolve and change and evolve. We also don't want to spend too much time on this. We really just need it to be a functional, fairly nice to look at place to see all of your hard work and link through to your code. So the next steps from here are to essentially initialize a new React app, showcase all your projects in a nice way that link back to your public GitHub repositories. From there, we're going to move on. Now it's time to actually host some of your projects and allow other people to see them in their live production format. And the way that we're going to do that is by using Vercel, which is an amazing tool for getting web development projects hosted within quite literally seconds. All you need to do is go to vercel.com, sign up for an account, connect your GitHub portfolio, and I'm sure as a new programmer, you can figure out the rest. You're going to use those URLs in your README, which is the next step of this entire process. Okay, so now let's talk about READMEs. It might seem like a really obvious thing to consider, but the way that you lay out a repository can actually make a recruiter feel really good and impressed just overall. What I'd like to do here is take a screenshot of the application or build that I did, and I'm just going to use that as the main image in my GitHub README. You can just start by editing the README, drag the photo directly in. Then what I like to do is write some nice text and a heading and talk about the things that contributed to building this app, what it does, the core functionality, followed by some of the tech stack as well. Then I also like to include the live Vercel links so that recruiters can not only now see your code in this GitHub repository, but they can click on that URL and view the production project. Do you see how we're almost creating this amazing user experience for the recruiter? They've come from your portfolio website to GitHub. They've now seen this README, this beautiful README, and now they can click on your production app and actually view it. They've gotten the entire cake laid out right in front of them, your code, your live production URL, and they've seen that you've actually put effort into the work that you've done. Okay, so now that we've got our entire portfolio set up, we've got all our projects linked to GitHub, we've got live production URLs in our GitHub README, the READMEs look beautiful, you guys are like light years ahead of where so many entry-level devs are at this point. The next step, and this is a huge plus, especially for any recruiter, I would recommend learning TypeScript. TypeScript is essentially a way to add static types to your JavaScript code so that when you edit a type in one place, it tells you all the other places within your repository that that type has changed. For example, if I change a value from a string to a number and it's expecting a string and now there's a number coming through, it's going to complain right here inside my VS Code window. I'm never now pushing code that doesn't work already. I know that it doesn't work before it's even hit the browser. That's only like scraping the surface of what TypeScript does, but I'd highly recommend checking out Scrimba's TypeScript course. It's a really good one as well. There's also a ton of really cool courses on YouTube for learning TypeScript as well. Definitely a plus when it comes to recruiters checking you out and actually understanding your skills that you have as an entry-level developer. The next thing that I recommend doing as well after you've learned TypeScript is I would check out Leetcode. Leetcode is a way to prepare for technical interviews. They're really quizzing you on things that you're not going to do all day, every day within your actual job, but it's still important. So what I'd recommend doing is jumping over to Leetcode, go and get one of their like entry-level interview preparation courses. Again, not sponsored, just really good resource to check out. I think you can pay like $90 and get one of the like entry-level interview preparation questions, which is like the kind of questions that you'll get at Microsoft and Google and YouTube and Apple, and highly recommend checking out Leetcode. It's just going to make your interview process seamless. And what I'd also do if I was just starting learning to code is I'd go out of my way to start building really unique and weird projects and adding that to my GitHub portfolio as well. And it also is going to show regular commit history, which is really good for a recruiter to see. They can see that you're actually interested in what you're doing. So if you go onto my GitHub profile, you'll see that I've just got like commits almost every day for the last couple of years. It's because I'm just having fun building projects. The coolest thing about learning to code is you can really just do it from anywhere and you can be anyone. You don't need a lot to get started. You just need a basic laptop, an internet connection, and you're ready to go. So that's the A to Z of how to get started as a coder. If I was learning from absolute zero, really hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe down below because I'm putting a lot of effort into these videos now. So I really hope you enjoy it. Also, if you want to see like New York lifestyle of a software engineer, subscribe as well. I've got some other videos like here and here. Maybe I'll put them up right now. But otherwise, really hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. You've got this 30-day challenge. If you want to do it, put it in the comments down below. Let's keep you accountable. And otherwise, hope to see you at Google or YouTube or Apple or whatever someday. It's possible. You can do it. All right, let's get it. See you guys soon.